I recognized his face. But the panties and $5,000 made me stop thinking. For 12 years, I poured everything into a marriage that gave nothing back. I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, kept his house perfect, while he barely noticed I existed. The breaking point came with a simple choice. I stopped doing his laundry and started buying beautiful lingerie for myself instead. What seemed like a small rebellion became a complete reclamation of my identity, my confidence, and my life. This is a story about recognizing your worth, about choosing yourself after years of disappearing, and about discovering that self-respect is the foundation everything else is built on. If this story helps you understand that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival, please like and subscribe. There are moments when you realize you've been living a half-life, performing the role of devoted wife so thoroughly that you've forgotten you're a complete person with needs and desires that matter independently of anyone else's comfort or convenience. For 12 years, I lived in a marriage where I gave everything, my time, my energy, my identity, while receiving almost nothing in return except the basic security of having a husband and a roof over my head. I cooked elaborate meals that my husband ate without comment. I kept our house immaculate to standards he set but never acknowledged. I washed his dirty clothes, including his stained underwear, without complaint for over a decade. While my own needs became so invisible, I stopped recognizing I had any. The transformation from selfless wife into woman who prioritizes herself didn't come through therapy or dramatic confrontation. It came through one small decision while doing laundry. I wasn't going to wash his dirty boxers anymore. And I was going to start spending money on beautiful lingerie for myself, not for him, not to improve our non-existent intimate life, but purely because I deserved to feel beautiful and valuable. That seemingly trivial choice became the beginning of reclaiming myself after 12 years of disappearing. My name is Carmen Rodriguez, and I'm 39 years old. I'd been married to my husband Victor for 12 years, when the laundry incident catalyzed my complete transformation from invisible domestic servant into woman who valued herself enough to prioritize her own needs. Victor was 42, worked as an operations manager for a logistics company, made comfortable middle-class salary that provided stable if not luxurious lifestyle. I'd worked as a bank teller before our marriage, had enjoyed my job and the independence it provided, but Victor had persuaded me to quit shortly after we married, arguing that I should focus on managing our household and eventually raising children, rather than continuing to work when we didn't desperately need my income. Children never came. We tried for the first 3 years of our marriage without success, eventually learned through fertility testing that I had medical issues making natural pregnancy unlikely. Victor decided he wasn't interested in pursuing expensive treatments or adoption, seemed almost relieved to have excuse to avoid parenthood he'd never been particularly enthusiastic about pursuing. So I stayed home managing household for just 2 adults, without the children who might have justified my full-time domestic role, without the career I'd abandoned, without any real purpose beyond making Victor's life comfortable and convenient. The pattern that developed over 12 years was comprehensive erasure of my needs, preferences, and identity in service of Victor's comfort. He expected meals at specific times prepared exactly to his preferences, became irritable if dinner wasn't ready when he arrived home from work, or if I'd cooked something different from what he wanted. He required the house to be maintained to exacting standards, floors cleaned daily, laundry done immediately, everything organized precisely the way he preferred. He controlled our finances completely, gave me household allowance that covered necessities but that left little room for anything I might want for myself, made all decisions about how money was spent without consulting me or considering my preferences. Victor's laundry became particularly symbolic of my complete subordination to his comfort. He was not a careful or clean person. His clothes were frequently stained with sweat and food, and various substances from his work. His underwear especially was often soiled in ways that required significant effort to clean properly. For 12 years, I washed Victor's dirty boxers without complaint, pre-treated stains, hand-washed when necessary, ensured he always had supply of clean underwear available without him having to think about the labor that went into maintaining that supply. Meanwhile, my own underwear was cheap and utilitarian, purchased in bulk from discount stores, replaced only when they became too worn to function. I never bought myself nice lingerie, never invested in anything beautiful or sensual or designed to make me feel attractive. Partly this was because Victor made clear through his behavior that he didn't care what I wore under my clothes. He paid no attention to my appearance beyond ensuring I looked respectable when we went out in public. Partly it was because I'd internalized the message that spending money on myself was selfish when that money could be used for things Victor wanted or needed. And partly it was because I'd stopped believing I deserved beautiful things, had forgotten that my body and my sense of my own attractiveness mattered independently of anyone else's appreciation or attention. Our physical relationship had been essentially dead for years. We'd have sex maybe once every few months, encounters Victor would initiate when biological urges overcame his general lack of interest in physical intimacy with me. He never commented on what I wore to bed, never touched me affectionately outside these rare sexual encounters, never looked at my body with any sign of desire or appreciation. I'd learned not to expect anything from these encounters, had accepted that physical connection wasn't something our marriage provided beyond minimal perfunctory maintenance of marital obligations. The breaking point came on a Wednesday afternoon in March. I was doing laundry, pulling Victor's boxers from the washing machine to hang them to dry, when I noticed they were particularly stained despite having been through wash cycle. I'd need to treat them again and re-wash them to get them actually clean. A task I'd performed hundreds of times over 12 years without thinking much about it. But this time, standing there holding my husband's soiled underwear, something inside me just broke. I looked at those stained boxers and suddenly saw them as symbol of everything wrong with my life and my marriage. I was 39 years old. I had no children, no career, no identity beyond being Victor's domestic servant. I spent my days performing tasks like washing his dirty underwear, while my own needs had become so irrelevant I'd forgotten I had any. Victor didn't appreciate any of the labor I performed, didn't thank me for the meals I cooked or the house I cleaned or the laundry I did. He just expected it all, treated me as appliance that performed necessary functions rather than as person making daily choices to serve him. And I'd accepted this for 12 years. I'd normalized being treated as invisible, had convinced myself that this was just what marriage looked like, that sacrificing my identity and my needs was what wives were supposed to do. But standing there with Victor's stained boxers in my hands, I understood with sudden devastating clarity that I couldn't continue this way, that continuing to wash his dirty underwear and cook his meals and organize my entire existence around his comfort while receiving nothing, not appreciation, not affection, not even basic recognition that I was person rather than function, was slowly killing me. I dropped Victor's boxers back in the washing machine without treating or re-washing them. I walked away from the laundry room and sat in my living room processing what had just happened inside me. Something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't going to continue performing these tasks, wasn't going to continue washing his dirty underwear and accepting his indifference, wasn't going to continue sacrificing myself for someone who gave nothing back. I didn't know yet exactly what changes I was going to make, or how I was going to reclaim myself, but I knew I was done being invisible. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done in 12 years of marriage. I took money from our household account without Victor's permission and went shopping for myself. I drove to an upscale lingerie boutique, the kind of place I'd walked past countless times but never entered, because I'd internalized the message that I didn't deserve expensive, beautiful things. I spent over $300 on gorgeous lingerie, lace bras and matching panties in colors that made me feel sensual and alive, sets that were beautifully made and luxurious in ways my cheap discount underwear had never been. In the dressing room trying on this beautiful lingerie, I looked at myself in the mirror and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Desire to be seen, recognition of myself as woman with body worth investing in, rather than just as domestic servant whose appearance didn't matter. The lingerie wasn't for Victor. He wouldn't notice or care what I wore under my clothes. It was for me, reminder that I deserved beautiful things, that my body was worth celebrating, that I could choose to prioritize my own pleasure and my sense of my own attractiveness instead of always prioritizing someone else's comfort. I wore the new lingerie home under my regular clothes, felt the soft, expensive fabric against my skin, felt transformed in ways that went far beyond the physical garment. This small act, buying myself beautiful underwear while refusing to continue washing Victor's dirty boxers, represented fundamental shift in how I saw myself and what I believed I deserved. I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. I wasn't going to accept being erased. I was going to prioritize myself, was going to reclaim my identity and my sense of my own worth after 12 years of sacrificing everything for someone who gave nothing in return. When Victor came home that evening expecting dinner on the table, he found instead that I hadn't cooked. "Why isn't dinner ready?" he asked, irritation obvious in his voice. "What have you been doing all day?" "I've been doing something for myself for the first time in 12 years, I said calmly. "And I've decided I'm not going to continue being your domestic servant. I'm not cooking your meals anymore. I'm not doing your laundry anymore. I'm not organizing my entire existence around making you comfortable while receiving nothing. Not appreciation, not affection, not even basic recognition that I'm person rather than appliance. You're an adult, Victor. You can manage your own meals and your own laundry and your own life." Victor's response was immediate anger and incomprehension. He couldn't understand why I was suddenly refusing to perform the duties he'd come to expect. Couldn't recognize that 12 years of treating me as invisible domestic servant while I accepted that treatment without complaint had been unsustainable and destructive. "You're my wife," he said, as if that explained everything. "Taking care of the house and cooking meals is your responsibility. What else are you doing with your time if you're not working?" "I quit my job because you asked me to," I said, feeling anger building. "You convinced me that managing our household would be better use of my time than continuing my career. But we don't have children. This house doesn't require full-time management. What I've actually been doing for 12 years is serving you, cooking your meals exactly how you like them, cleaning the house to your specifications, washing your dirty underwear, organizing my entire life around your comfort while my own needs have become completely invisible. I'm done with that. I'm done being erased. I'm done existing only to make your life easier." The argument that followed revealed exactly how Victor saw me and our marriage. I was supposed to perform domestic labor that made his life comfortable, wasn't supposed to have needs or desires or identity beyond that functional role, should be grateful for the financial security he provided, rather than expecting appreciation or affection or genuine partnership. His inability to recognize me as person rather than as servant confirmed what I'd already concluded. Staying in this marriage meant continuing to disappear, meant accepting emotional death in exchange for financial stability and social respectability of being married. I filed for divorce the following week. Victor contested it initially, seemed genuinely shocked that I was serious about leaving, couldn't understand what had changed when from his perspective everything had been functioning adequately. I'd been performing my wifely duties, he'd been providing financial support. What more could I possibly want? His incomprehension revealed how completely he'd failed to see me as actual person with needs that mattered. The divorce took 9 months to finalize. The settlement gave me half our marital assets. Not a huge amount since Victor's income had been modest, and we'd lived relatively simply, but enough to provide foundation for rebuilding my life. More valuable than the money was the freedom, the reclamation of myself after 12 years of being invisible. I returned to work as bank teller at a branch that welcomed me back despite the long employment gap. I moved into a small apartment that I decorated to my own taste, rather than to Victor's specifications. I continued buying myself beautiful lingerie regularly, not obsessively, but as ongoing reminder that I deserved nice things, that my body was worth investing in, that I could prioritize my own pleasure and my sense of my own beauty. 4 years after that Wednesday afternoon when I dropped Victor's stained boxers back in the washing machine and decided I was done being invisible, I'm 43, and living life that feels genuinely mine. I work, I have hobbies and friendships. I make choices based on what I want rather than on what someone else expects from me. I've dated some, have learned what healthy partnerships look like when both people actually value each other. And yes, I wear beautiful lingerie regularly, lace and silk in colors I love, garments that make me feel sensual and valuable and worthy of investment. The transformation from woman who washed her husband's dirty boxers for 12 years to woman who chooses sexy panties for herself wasn't just about underwear. It was about reclaiming identity, about recognizing my own worth, about learning to prioritize my needs after years of sacrificing everything for someone who gave nothing back. Every time I put on beautiful lingerie now, I remember that I choose myself, that I'm worth investing in, that my comfort and my pleasure and my sense of my own beauty matter. My name is Carmen Rodriguez. For 12 years, I was married to a man who treated me as invisible domestic servant, who expected me to cook his meals and clean his house and wash his dirty underwear while my own needs became completely irrelevant. The moment that catalyzed my transformation came while doing laundry, holding his stained boxers, suddenly understanding that this degrading task symbolized everything I needed to stop accepting. I dropped those boxers unwashed. I walked away from my marriage. And I started choosing beautiful lingerie for myself, not for anyone else's approval, but as a reminder that I deserve to feel attractive and valuable and worthy of investment. What began as small change in what I wore under my clothes became complete reclaiming of confidence, identity, and sense of self-worth I'd lost through years of erasure. This is a story about quiet power of self-respect, about learning that choosing yourself can be boldest act of all. Thank you for reading. If this story helps you understand that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival, please like and subscribe.